Today, we're talking about Blender. It's this incredible piece of software that has totally flipped the creative world on its head. And it's one of those classic underdog stories, how a tool that costs absolutely nothing defied everyone's expectations to become a true industry powerhouse. It all starts in a place you'd probably never expect.
Just look at this. This isn't from some big-budget fantasy movie or a video game. No, this is a forensic facial reconstruction of a mummy, put together by actual scientists. And the tool they used to get this incredible, lifelike detail? You guessed it, Blender. This image right here just shatters that old idea that free somehow means not as good.
So that leads us to the big question, right? How did a piece of software you can download for free end up being used to make Hollywood blockbusters, Oscar-winning films, and even get used by an institution like NASA? Well, that's the wild story we're going to unpack. But to really understand how Blender got here, we have to rewind the clock to a moment where it almost disappeared forever. I mean, it came so close to just being a footnote in tech history.
Okay, so here's the quick timeline. It started back in '94 as this private in-house tool for an animation studio in the Netherlands. A few years later, in '98, it was released to the public, but then disaster struck. In 2002, the parent company, which was called Not a Number, or NAN, went bankrupt. And just like that, development stopped. Blender was, for all intents and purposes, dead. The source code was all tied up with investors who couldn't have cared less about it.
But what happened next? Well, it was genuinely amazing. Instead of just letting the software fade away, its small but super passionate community decided they were going to fight for it in a way that pretty much nobody had ever done before.
100,000 euros. That was the magic number. Blender's founder, Ton Roosendaal, he managed to strike a deal with the investors. He told them, for 100 grand, you sell me the source code. Now, you got to remember, this is 2002. This was a huge, almost impossible amount of money to raise for a scattered online community.
And they did it in what was basically one of the very first crowdfunding campaigns, way before Kickstarter or GoFundMe were even a thing. People from all over the globe just started sending in money. But here's the key. They weren't just buying the software. They were buying its freedom. The entire point was to get that source code and make sure Blender could never, ever be locked up by a corporation again.
And they did that by releasing it under the GNO General Public License, or GPL. This is the core of what free software really means. It's not about the price tag, it's about freedom. It's a legally binding promise that gives you, me, anyone, 4 essential freedoms. The freedom to run the program for whatever you want, the freedom to actually look at the code and change it, and the freedom to share it and even share your modified versions. It's like a constitution for software, guaranteeing it will always belong to the people.
So once the chains were off and the software was truly free, its growth just exploded. The community wasn't just using it anymore, they were actively building it. And that led to an impact across the entire industry that, honestly, very few people saw coming.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? For years, people argued, can a free tool really compete with the expensive industry standards? Well, that debate is over. Blender showed up and proved it could. It's a huge mental shift. The success of a creative project now isn't limited by whether you can afford a pricey license. It's about your skill and your vision.
And hey, the proof is right there in the projects. We're talking the mind-bending animation of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the 2024 Academy Award winner Flow. It's used for visual effects in big TV shows to make entire Netflix movies. And major studios, I'm talking Ubisoft, Warner Bros., even Kara, the studio behind the legendary anime Evangelion, they all have Blender in their official pipelines.
But the story doesn't end in Hollywood or the gaming world. Because Blender is so powerful and so accessible, it's become this absolutely essential tool in science and research, too.
I mean, case in point, NASA. They used Blender to build an interactive web app that lets anyone with an internet connection explore Mars with the Curiosity rover. Think about that. This is the perfect example of democratizing technology. It takes this incredibly complex, high-end visualization and just hands it to the world for education and discovery. It's awesome.
So you might be wondering, how does this all work? How does a totally free, nonprofit project not only survive, but actually thrive, and in many cases innovate even faster than its commercial rivals? Well, it's all powered by a revolutionary model.
You know the drill with traditional software, right? Subscription fees, expensive licenses. It's a constant drain. Blender's model is the total opposite. It's sustained by its own community through something called the Blender Development Fund. This is where individual users can donate. But now, even huge corporations who depend on Blender are investing in its future.
And that nonprofit structure, tied to that powerful GPL license we mentioned, it creates this ironclad guarantee. The goal here isn't to make a profit. The goal is to give the best possible creative tool to the world forever. It's a promise baked into its DNA. Blender will always, always be free.
And that kind of leaves us with this one big idea to think about. Blender's story, it's about so much more than just a piece of software. It's a real-world example of what becomes possible when the tools we need to create aren't locked away behind a paywall. It makes you ask a really powerful question for any industry, really. What amazing new art, what new science, what new ideas are just waiting out there to be discovered when creativity is no longer a privilege for the few, but a basic right for everyone?